about getting your wood floor restored, but you're not sure if it's pine or if it's oak, I have the same issue all the time, considering I work for a wood floor restoration company and I'm doing pictures constantly. I still have to ask the guys, what is this wood? So that's where I've asked you to come in today, Claire. Oak and pine seem to be the two that are fairly common.
Yes.
With people.
Yes, that's the types of timbers we see probably most of when we sand wooden floors.
So maybe we could help them just decide what type of wood floor they've got.
Okay.
If there's any way of doing that, I'm not saying there is.
Yes, absolutely. It is to a certain degree slightly important to know what type of timber you have and what the outcome would be. I want to delve into that more and quickly just explain what is the reason why it's good for the homeowner to have an idea of what floor they have, because each one has got certain characteristics that gives them something that might be the outcome of the finish that they might want. So I want to quickly touch on softwoods and hardwoods first of all.
Yes, that would be good.
So that we can then move from pine and oak. So if we can consider that I'm going to give it away first, that oak is a hardwood and pine is a softwood.
Yeah.
The difference between a hardwood and a softwood is actually not how hard or how soft the wood is, but rather how the nature of a hardwood or a softwood is if the tree grows right through the year or whether the tree sheds its leaves. And then it slows growing in the winter and it has leaves like oak does in the summer, and it grows in the summer, and then in the winter it's dormant and it sheds its leaves and it grows. If it grows very little bit. So you've got different consistencies in the wood where the softer part of the oak will grow in the summer and the hard part is the little bit of growth in the winter. Whereas your pine grows evenly throughout the year. And that's why it would be the case. But it's a very loose rule as to the hardness and softness of wood, and many people think actually a softwood is generally soft. It's not the case. You can have softwoods that are actually hard. It's just different types of timber. Actually, it comes down to the tree grows throughout the year, the tree sheds its leaves in the winter. There's hardwood and softwood. So that's the difference between the hardwood and the softwoods, right? And then what we then want to talk about is oak and pine. So we know now oak is hardwood, pine is a softwood, and we can then talk about the different characteristics and what's possible and what's not. So what I have is I've got my little table on the go again, and I can go and show people something. So I'm stepping over to my table, and I would quickly show you here what I have. I can go for my little close-up, and what I have here is basically sliding that one out of the way, and I'm going to bring you in here to different types of timber. So we talked about your oaks and pines, and it is usually quite simple to distinguish between your oaks and your pines, and from this picture you probably might be able to notice it. So first of all, I'm looking at the oaks here, and I've got the oaks down the bottom here. So I've got a very light oak with a lighter finish down the bottom. Then we've got more natural looking oaks that might be more in line with a floor that's been down for a little while. It does bring out the golden colors a little bit more. These are your oaks. And then I've got some pine. I'm going to slide these down so that you can have a look at your pine. And pine has first of all got a more orangey characteristic to it. The other thing you'll notice with a pine is the knots that are quite big, although you can find them on the oak as well. I'm going to turn that one around so you can see that a little bit better. So you have a nice big knot. You also have some pine like this one here that don't have so many knots, but you have the characteristic of the orangey look. Also, in the case of pine, it is a softwood, and yes, pine is usually naturally softer. There are some other types of pine that are actually hard, but in this case, the homes we serve, we see these softer types of pine, typically in a Victorian type property. They are soft. There are some modern properties, more the 70s, 80s, where you see people have put pine down, and they are modern pine, and that is very soft wood. So naturally you'll see it makes a really easy indent in the wood. Softer, you get the orange look and you get the knots, where naturally with oak it just happens that my oak samples here don't have any knots in them, but naturally you will have some knots in the oak. And you can see this different type of characteristic here on this board, these lines. It depends on how the board is cut. So that's basically an observational difference between the types of timber. And then I have this slab here just to show you There are so many different types of timber that it is nearly impossible to just simply look at a floor and say, this is the type of timber you have. So having a type of timber is not as simple as just purely looking at it and saying that is what you have. Normally what you'll have is your pine and your oak is usually very visually identifiable, so it would be okay to go and say that's a pine and that's oak. And Tracy, the important bit of that is that the knowing what the type of timber is helps the client to understand what the outcome would be from the color, what it would look like. So if I go back to my little close-up look here, and we sand and finish this pine floor, the natural look of the pine, if we apply a lacquer, would probably, the pens then, it would give me a slightly lighter color. If I apply oil, it would bring out more of the dark orange color. So it's important to know that we've got a pine and these are the things to look out for. Oak, on the other hand, you know what, yes, we can make the oak slightly darker, or in this case slightly lighter, but we have got a little better control about the color. It's not as deep and orange as the pine. So it's why it's so important to know the type of timber you have, so you know what the outcome would be. But at the end of the day, the very important bit to remember is if you want to be 100% sure about what timber you have, it is the very best thing to get it tested. Now, how they test it, they take a little slither of the wood and they place it under a microscope, and this gets tested that way. They can do this in Germany, so we need to send items away for testing to get a very certain of what type of timber it is. For general terms, when we sand wooden floors, it is just purely to know what it would look like when we finish.
When it's finished.
Exactly that. So that's what we need to look for, and this is important that we know what finish there is.
Okay, perfect. So there you go. I have trouble, and I'm sure that I won't be the only one that has trouble. I hope I won't be the only one that has trouble. But thank you very much, Pierre, for explaining that to us today. Hope we've helped. If you need any other help with anything, pop a comment below and we'll get back to you.
Thank
Take
you.
care, bye.
Bye.